You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Chris.
And I'm Jeff.
And we are The Bible Guys.
Yay! Yay! The crowds go wild.
Let's pretend the crowd.
Yeah.
So, hey, today we are diving into yet another passage that is only found in
The book of Luke.
The book of Luke.
Yeah.
So Luke has this stint where he's recording things that no other gospel recorder is capturing.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool because we're in a series doing the harmony of the gospels where we're going chronologically and then also parallel.
And he really captures a ton of the things that Jesus taught.
Yeah.
Right. So he's just the best. I love Luke. I like them all. Matthew, Mark, and John as well.
I love Luke too.
Yeah, Luke's great.
Luke's great.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, we're supposed to do 2 truths and a lie today.
Yeah. And so today you are going
Christmas.
you're going to give me 3 statements.
2 truths and a lie revolving around Christmas or the holidays in general.
And I have to guess which one is the lie.
In general, that's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So give me 3 statements.
Christmas season is special to me because that's when I got married. The Christmas season is the time of the year when the most presents are given. And Saint Nicholas was originally from Greece.
Wait a minute. The third statement didn't have anything to do with Jeff Forrester.
It just said Christmas or the holidays in general.
But the first statement was all about you.
Sure, but it was about Christmas season. It's just statements,
These
Christmas
are
or the
not
holidays in general.
consistent, and this made Chris mad.
I know, that's why I did it.
That is not, there's not a pattern
I
here.
know, that's why I did it.
All right, so the first statement is Christmas is special because you got married around that time.
Uh-huh.
Third statement is Saint Nicholas is originally from Greece. And the second one is what?
Christmas is the season when the most gifts are given.
Well, that one's obviously true. So, I mean, if we're talking about the world, we're not talking about the Forrester household, right? That's a statement about the world.
It's just general.
Yeah.
Christmas
Okay. Well, then I
statements.
buy that. I think that that's true.
Uh-huh.
Is he from Greece? And did you get married around that time? I'm going to say the lie is you did not get married. No, wait a minute. No, you did get married. I know this to be true because in the past, you have wanted to make time during the Christmas services for your anniversary because Jenna's birthday and your anniversary are around the same time.
Jenna's birthday's on December 22nd. That's the problem every year.
Yeah. So I'm going to say he's originally not from Greece. That's the lie.
Oh, wow. So you're correct. Yeah,
Yes!
Saint Nicholas was from Turkey. Yeah.
Boom,
Yeah.
bop, boom, bop, boom, bop. Yeah, that's right.
that's
I got
great.
it. So,
Good job.
So when did you get married? What
December
date?
19th.
December 19th.
Is when we got married. We got married the first day of Christmas break of my junior year of college.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I raced home. We got married. Had a 3-day honeymoon. I was back in school. It's crazy.
Wow.
We, as a matter of fact, on Christmas Day, we rented a truck
Yes.
from a friend of ours who had a U-Haul place. But his trucks were not approved. This is back in the old days of U-Haul. They were not approved for long distance hauling, only local hauling because they were kind of, not super dependable.
Janky.
And so he rented. He said, "But you have to bring it back. I can't let you drop it off down there in Indiana." So we packed up all of my wife's things and furniture and everything, and we moved down on Christmas, 2 days before Christmas. And we get everything moved in, and then we're driving back on Christmas Day. We're trying to make it home for Christmas dinner, and there's holes in the floorboard. And so I stopped and we bought newspaper to block the holes. And then the truck broke down about halfway between where we lived in Indiana and my mom and dad's house on Christmas Day. Well, it's the one day a year that nobody answers the phone when you call U-Haul, right? So we're broke down at a gas station, and our very first Christmas dinner was gas station hot dogs and Doritos and Mountain Dew.
Which sounds great, by the way.
That was our Speedway. It was a Speedway that we were broke down at.
Wow.
So I called my dad. Back then we didn't have cell phones. So I called my dad on the payphone. Said, "Hey, we're broke down." And he's like, "Okay, well, hey, we just sat down for Christmas dinner. So I'll be there in a couple hours."
Right.
He sat down, they had Christmas dinner.
Well,
And
your day's already ruined.
Yeah, your day's ruined. I'm sitting down having dinner with my family.
No sense of ruining his day.
Yeah, he asked, he said, "You guys safe?" I said, yeah, we're safe. Don't worry about it. You don't have to leave right away. Sit down, have dinner with everybody else. Because everybody else, the whole rest of the family was there. It's just us.
Yeah.
And yeah, so our very first Christmas was broke down on the side of the road.
Well, you know what? It was an adventure.
Yeah, and it just got better from there.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I set the bar so low for our first Christmas. Everything else has been better.
Yeah, and not to mention the first few days of your marriage.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
It was crazy.
Yeah, everything went good after that.
Yep, that's right.
That's so funny.
Hey guys, just a quick reminder that we're going to take a break between Christmas and New Year's, December 25th through the 29th. But we'll be right back at it in 2024. So we look forward to seeing you then.
All right, buddy. Well, today we're doing one of the most famous and one of my favorite passages in all of the New Testament.
Lost sheep.
Lost sheep.
Right. So, and there's a lot of misunderstandings about this, by the way. So I think hopefully we'll unpack them today. And we're reading Luke chapter 15, 1 through 10.
Yep.
And so we're also going to cover the lost coin here. It says, tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. Funniest description in the whole Bible. Those notorious sinners. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people, even eating with them. So Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that's lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he'll joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. And when he arrives, he'll call together his friends and neighbors, saying, "Rejoice with me, because I found my lost sheep." In the same way, there is more joy in heaven over one lost sinner who repents and returns to God than over 99 others who are righteous and haven't strayed away. Or suppose a woman has 10 silver coins and loses one. Won't she light a lamp and sweep the entire house and search carefully until she finds it? And when she finds it, she'll call in her friends and neighbors and say, "Rejoice with me, because I found my lost coin." In the same way, there's joy in the presence of God's angels when even one sinner repents.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it's great. And then, of course, obviously, tomorrow we're going to be covering the bigger story, which is the third story in a row, which is the prodigal son.
The lost son. Yep.
The lost son. But for now, we're covering the first two, which is the lost sheep and the lost coin. And so, what is the first thing, misconception you think about this?
Well, first of all, I think it's just worth pointing out, we already did kind of make a joke, but notorious sinners and Jesus is there. One misconception, I think, is people think, the Pharisees thought that Jesus was hanging out with sinners because he also was a sinner, that he was indulging in their lifestyle.
Right.
But what we always see with Jesus is not that Jesus was being affected by those sinners, but Jesus was affecting them. Right. He wasn't being swayed to their way. He was bringing them over to his way, right? And so as we measure our lives and make the decisions of who we're going to be with and what kind of environments we're going to allow ourselves to be around, we have to really be conscious of whether or not this environment or these people are going to have a negative impact on us, or are we going to assertively, intentionally have a positive impact on them, right? Jesus wasn't just there hanging out, drinking what they were drinking, listening to what they were listening to, talking about what they were talking about, without having any intention of interrupting what was supposed to be a certain kind of party and interrupting it and pointing them to God, right? He was always pointing them to the truth. So that would be one. I think that the Pharisees misunderstood Jesus' intent by being with them.
Yeah. And by the way, that's applicable to us in so many ways, because sometimes, it's that. So I know that some people think that they're strong enough to hang around with friends with the purpose of trying to lift them up.
Yeah.
And a lot of times what you do is you get drugged down. Right. And so, we're all not Jesus. Right. So Jesus was not going to compromise anything he did not want to do.
Right.
But for us, there are seasons of our lives, I believe, that we could be around people that are, that need lifted up. And I remember, one of my really good friends strayed from the faith for a very long time. And I felt like I was on mission with him for years. And now, he's back on fire for God.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt like that was my mission, to be around him all the time. And you know what? God allowed me to do that. And, but not to be pulled down. But I've heard stories of people, and actually in other times in my life where I've tried to, be a missionary or whatever to a person, and then come to find out they just influenced me in the negative.
A lot of young women will especially do that. Oh, I'm trying to lead this guy to Jesus.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm going to date him. I'm going to move in with him. I'm going to all these things.
Yeah, missionary
like
dating.
missionary dating. Right. And then it almost always leads to heartbreak. Right.
Yeah.
And disappointment. The other thing is, I think you'll notice with Jesus, he often, when he did send his disciples into the world, he didn't send them alone. He sent them 2 by 2. Right. So going on mission together, you can protect each other a lot more than just by yourself in that. So that'll be one. But then he says, 100 sheep, and this guy has 100 sheep, and one gets lost, and he leaves the 99 to go find the one.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, the operative word there is he doesn't come back until he finds it.
Right.
Right. And he says, won't he? Jesus says, in other versions, it says, doesn't he?
Right.
And so it's not a question that needs answered.
It's an of course.
It's an of course. It's an assumption.
Of course he would.
And he says, in other words, what he's saying is everybody knows that if a person has 100 sheep, if a shepherd has 100 sheep, and they lose one of them, they will leave the 99. And of course, the 99 are important because the 99 are his.
Right.
They're safe and secure in the pen. Right. But he's going to go, and he will not come back until that one is brought back.
He'll risk everything to find him.
Yeah, and by the way, that's true today. If you go to Africa, matter of fact, we asked them about this passage in the villages in Africa. Did you ever hear this story where they talk about how
where they have so many goats?
Yeah, they have goats and sheep and everything else, and they'll send oftentimes the boys, and if the boys don't get the job done, and if the men have to get up and actually take over for the boys, then the boys get in trouble. Right. Yeah. And so anyway, but yeah, it's that way, and sometimes the whole village will go look. And they'll say, hey, I've lost for one sheep, right? And it's because that sheep is valuable. And so the assumption Jesus is saying is, of course he will. And he says that there's more rejoicing, not as much and not less than, but there's actually more rejoicing over one person who is far from God, who doesn't know Christ, who comes to be a Christian, than there are over 99 Christians who are already safe and in the pen. And so I think that points toward the Great Commission. Right. That points toward us, in our job to tell others about Jesus. Yeah. And he's saying there's more rejoicing that happens in heaven when one sinner repents than over 99 righteous people who doesn't need to repent. And so this verse honestly has driven everything that I do. It defines my job description. So, and I believe that everything that we do should be geared toward, or at least include, as a minister, it should include the consideration of those who are far from God. So you don't have to run every event toward those who are far from God. You don't have to run. You could have Christian events. You could have worship nights. You could have in-depth Bible studies. But I believe that there should be always something built in where it's not exclusive to the guest who walks in through the door who just doesn't understand the culture or the language or certainly doesn't know God. Right. And I believe this is a call to those things. We have such limited impact anyways, right? There's a limited amount of time, if you're only looking at church service time slots. We have just a limited amount of access to lost people who would be open to a spiritual conversation. And so we should take advantage of every one of those moments and not just waste them on the 99 that have already been found. It's very difficult for some Christians to realize you're part of the 99 and not the one. Right. Right. We all want to be the one. Right. Well, at one point you were. You were lost and now you're found. Right. Right. But now that you're found, it's not about you anymore. It's not about me anymore. Right. It's about the one that hasn't been found yet. And so that can be very, very difficult because we naturally, even on a spiritual level, can be very self-centered. Yeah. Where we want everything. We want the total attention to be on us all the time. And we want everything that's happening in the spirit, in my church and all that stuff should be for me. And let's not forget too, that what you just said is exactly the point of why Jesus told the story. Yeah. Because it said the Pharisees were murmuring and grumbling. Right. And the reason why they were murmuring and grumbling is because they wanted Jesus for themselves. This should be a Bible study for the Pharisees. Yes. Yeah. And Jesus is spending time with those who need to be found. Notorious sinners. Notorious. Whenever I read that, I always think tax collectors and other notorious sinners like the Zarbaugh brothers. Often came to listen to Jesus teach. The Pharaoh family from Youngstown. Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah. And the religious elites like, oh
my! Right?
Right.
You just imagine ladies with their fans about to pass out. They're so surprised
Yes.
that Jesus is hanging out with the Zarbal brothers.
Yeah, and
Right.
and so it's one of those things where, you know, if and I've always said this for 30 years, but if you want to know what makes Chris mad this week, just focus on the Christians who murmur and grumble and complain about things that they shouldn't, you know, and it's always from not always, but a lot of the time it's from a posture of self-importance or superiority or something like that. And oftentimes
Or
I believe
preference, just really strong preference for,
or
for their
preference.
own likes.
Yep.
Yep.
And I believe that I believe that sometimes when Christians don't get it, it could be one of the most frustrating things for me. Not that they don't get it. I don't mind that. It's the reaction, the complaining, and the leveraging and all that stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that when that happens, we just need to look to the scriptures and understand. Like, you know, there's a passage. In fact, I'm reading this Sunday that talks about how Jesus says, "I've come to seek and save those who are lost." And it's not those who are healthy that need a doctor,
Right.
but the sick.
Right.
Right. And so Jesus is there on a rescue mission.
Yeah.
He's there because he's there to seek and save those who are lost. And he wants us to join the search party.
Right.
He wants us to search for the coin. He wants us to search for the sheep. And he wants us to, because what does he say? He says, when she finds it, the coin, she calls all her neighbors over and they celebrate.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because apparently these are valuable coins.
Absolutely. Well, so Jesus just got done telling us a couple days ago about the king that wanted to have a banquet, and he said, "Go everywhere, tell everyone, invite everybody."
that's
right.
right. That's right.
Highways and hedges, and the byways, and the people that would be least expected. And this is what Jesus is trying to establish: is that his kingdom isn't made up of just a religious elite. It's made up of the least expected people. And by the way, every time one of those lost ones is found, there's a party in heaven. So your job and my job, we're supposed to just be throwing party after party after party. That's what we both feel called to, right?
Yeah, that's
is
right.
reach as many people who are far from God as possible, start as many parties in heaven as possible. And that's really cool. It's cool that there's things that you and I can do on earth here that has an impact in heaven immediately.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
And by the way, I'm sure a lot of our listeners, maybe even the majority, don't know that our church that we're a part of, we're actually launching a brand new location this upcoming September.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost money.
Yeah.
And it has cost money for people. Mm-hmm. And it's going to cost a lot of, and to be honest with you, none of our team we don't exactly want to work harder, right?
But we're going to.
Because we're going to work a lot harder.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would we do that to ourselves? Well, it's only one reason. Yeah. It's the same reason why people have pledged money.
Right.
It's the reason why people give money, because we believe in the mission.
Right.
And so we're doing it for one reason. And I like the way you said it, because we want to create more parties in heaven.
Yeah, I want to start a party in heaven. That's every day. So
That's so good.
That's been one of my goals since I came to Heritage.
Yeah.
Was I wanted to start a party in heaven every single day. And so this year is the first year. Mm-hmm. 2023 is the first year. The book of Acts chapter 2 describes the very first church, and it says, and the Lord added the church daily those that were being saved, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's been one of my goals, is I wanted to be able to have a new baptized believer for every day of the year. And this year is the first year we did that. We had 407 people that we led to Jesus and baptized this year by the grace of God. And that was God's blessing on us. And it was a lot of hard work for our team and for our church people.
And I believe those are the ones that just get baptized.
Yeah.
Right. There's plenty more people.
Way more.
Yeah. That we.
Yeah. But in Acts chapter 2, it's they baptized 3,000 people. And then they were baptizing people, and the Lord added the church that was saved. So I just kind of associated those two. But the idea being not so that we can have 407 on a plaque somewhere, or
right.
It's that every one of those 407 people, those 407 individuals, they have unique stories, and their unique stories matter to God. And each of them individually started a party in heaven, right?
Yeah.
And I think that I mentioned to our elders the other night, we were celebrating and just thanking God for his blessings. And that would be one of them. And I mentioned to a guy several years ago, we were talking, and I mentioned a specific number. I forgot what it was, that we had baptized 322 people or something. And he kind of made fun, 322, not 325, not 320, 322, right? He's kind of making fun of me. And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, every time you talk about a number, you're always so precise with that. It seems like numbers are a big deal to you. And I said, well, numbers by themselves aren't a big deal. But I said, I said, when you count your offering, do you count it to the tens or to the hundreds? Money comes in and, about $3,100. Or do you count $3,107.17? And he goes, well, yeah, of course, we count it to the penny. I said, so the hundredth of a dollar, you count it down to? He said, yeah. I said, well, I think that we just count what matters most to us, right? So what matters most to me is that there were people who didn't know Jesus, that through the work and the effort, the prayer, the sacrifice, the fasting, the clear presentation of the gospel, through the work of the people at Heritage Church and the blessing of the Holy Spirit, 400 or 200 or whatever number of people have come to faith, and we're celebrating every one of those, and every one of those matters. I'm not saying that counting money in a reasonable way with integrity isn't important. I'm just saying this is more important.
Right.
There's nowhere in the Bible that says when you balance the books at the end of the year, there's a party in heaven.
Right.
Right? There's nowhere in the entire Bible that says when everybody's finished with all their Bible studies this year, that there's a party in heaven.
That's right.
There's nowhere in the Bible that says when we have finally obeyed all the rules, there's finally a party in heaven. But it does say when one lost sinner comes home,
right,
there's a party in heaven, right?
That's awesome.
And that's both of these passages, the lost coin and the lost sheep. And so that's what we should be about. All of these things that we've talked about, you should count the cost.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. But prior to that one, everything else was inviting to the feast, going and finding the lost sheep, going and finding the lost coin. This is a major focus, not a secondary focus or one of the focuses. This is the major focus of Jesus' ministry, was to seek and to save that which was lost.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
So if we're going to really be followers of Jesus, we need to decide that's going to be the major focus of our ministry too.
Yeah, and by the way, when somebody does come to me and they say, it seems like your church is all about numbers, I actually say the words unapologetically. Because it's because I know what they're saying, and what they're saying it can be
right
a thing with other people.
Sure,
right?
Sure.
I mean, there are definitely people who, so I don't get angry when somebody says that, because that could be a thing. It could be a thing where people only care. They think they're so important because they have a church of 10,000 or whatever it is.
Right.
So, but I always say unapologetically, and then I always make a comment. And I said, numbers were important to God. There's a book in the Bible called Numbers, right?
Yeah.
I said, so, numbers are pretty important because every person matters to God, right? And so the idea that numbers don't matter to God is crazy.
Right.
So God cares about numbers almost more than anything.
Right.
Because they represent people. They represent names and souls. And so good gravy. Right.
Every number has a name. Every name has a story.
Yeah.
Every story matters to God.
That's right.
It's just I can't tell you all the names and all the stories. It would take us all afternoon.
Right.
To talk about 407 of them. But to say God has done amazing things and 407 lost sheep, right?
Yep.
Have been found. Is just, that's how we celebrate it. And God gets the glory. It's not us. It's not about us being able to take credit for numbers. It's celebrating the fact that God did amazing things. And that's where there's a party. They are rejoicing locally. And then he said there's also a party in heaven. So we just rejoice locally, knowing that God's also throwing a party in heaven.
That's awesome. Well, hey, that is a great place to end. And we will pick it up tomorrow with the prodigal son, the lost son. And we'll see you next time on the Bible Guys.
Go start a party.